he cool?
Hell yeah, he's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back. Did you get a good chuckle? Did it make you laugh? I hope you're laughing with me because you're probably not going to be laughing much longer. Because as we all know, so many of you are so easily offended, and there's one thing that a mad and angry guinea pig does. It pretty much learns how to offend everybody. All right, so how many of you remember this scene? How many of you were outraged by this scene? What did you call her? You called her Leia Poppins, right? And while on the surface this may seem ridiculous and seem absurd, I hate to tell you all, I'm going to burst your bubble. I like to go back and I like to dig into facts and see why everybody was so outraged about the scene, because obviously I never watched The Last Jedi and I really could care less, but I've heard so much about it I had to look into it. Now, as some of you may know, I do a lot of rereading of the old canon. I also pay attention to what goes on in the movies and the TV shows, including the ones that they call canon now. And you know what? This is not the first time this has happened. And there's an old saying, when facts don't work, you create a myth. The myth is retold to it becomes fact. And that's kind of what has happened here. Everybody has retold this myth that this never has happened before and it could never happen before. And that it's just ridiculousness on the part of Disney, which, you know what, in a sense, yeah, you know what, you can say that it is, but, well, guess what? It really isn't this time. Obviously, as you see right here, they did it on Star Wars Rebels. Now I know what you're saying. Okay, well, that's Disney. And Disney does those kind of things. You know what? Yeah, okay, well, you may be right. But what about this? From the older lore, Darth Bane, Rule of Two, page 103, he talks about, in centuries past, on this one planet, for a brief window of time, the planets became close enough to its smaller moon to allow the great flying beasts of Duxum to migrate to the other world. Now, obviously, if they're migrating to the other world, they're actually passing through space for a brief amount of time. And these are just regular beasts. So you may say to yourself, well, that does not prove anything. Okay, well, how about this? Bane got on the back of one of these beasts, and I will read the passage from page 105, Rule of Two. Already, he could feel the faint gravitational pull of Onderon trying to draw them in, the larger planet's mass battling for dominance with that of its slightly smaller satellite. Driven by Bane's relentless will, the Drexel pumped its wings furiously, gaining speed and elevation with every beat. Bane began to summon the Force, letting it build until the last possible instant, then gathering the dark side around him and his mount like a protective cloak. He spurred the Drexel forward, and a second later they broke free of Duxon's atmosphere and plunged into the frozen vacuum of space that separated him from Onderon and freedom. So, if this has never happened before, then why is it in the EU? Everybody says, well, look back to the EU. Well, I did look back to the EU, and guess what? It's there, so your argument is invalid. Shall I repeat that? Your argument is invalid. And if you want to take it a step forward and say, oh, well, Leia never learned anything. Well, you know what? Let's look back to the original trilogy and what was explained later on in the prequels by George Lucas, because everybody can pretty much agree that George Lucas is the founder of everything Star Wars, and anything that he put forth, well, that's canon to them because Disney canon is not. Well, Luke managed to talk to a Force ghost. And then some people might say, oh, well, certain ghosts attach themselves to certain people and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That is a pretty sad argument to make. Because if anybody should have been able to communicate with a ghost first, shouldn't it have been Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, since Qui-Gon Jinn was Obi-Wan's master? They had a very long relationship as Padawan and master. Yet no, No, Qui-Gon reached out to Yoda first. Yoda was not his primary teacher. As everybody knows, it was Dooku. How does this make sense then? Explain it to me. And one other thing to not forget about was in The Revenge of the Sith. When Grievous blew out that window and the vacuum of space entered that atmosphere into those blast shields fell down. Both Obi-Wan, Senator Palpatine, and Anakin were both sitting in the vacuum of space for a little bit of time. While there are many things to be angry and upset about that are canon breaking and lore breaking, this is not one of them, people. You really just need to go out of your way at every turn to look for something to be agitated about without doing any research, without finding out the facts. Well, these are the facts. You're wrong on this one. Accept it and move on, or don't and cry about it. Either way, it's not going to bother me much. If you understand what I'm talking about and you're not too angry and you would like to leave some comments down below, I'd appreciate that. If you like what you heard and you're not too pissed off, go ahead and destroy that like button for me. And of course, if you're new to the channel, I would appreciate you subscribing. Anyway, guys, that's all I got, and I will catch you next time. Later, y'all.